Hello and welcome back to Fast Track Finance with Bronte. Now I wanted to dedicate a bit more time to the structure of the private equity case study because it's often the most crucial point of an interview process and really the make or break stage for a candidate. So typically the interviewer will be wanting to assess whether you can holistically evaluate an investment opportunity as you would be doing on the day-to-day of the job itself. And typically the structure will be you will have perhaps anything from 2 to 4 hours or perhaps even longer if you're able to take home the case study. But normally you would go into the office and be given a laptop. In most cases, you'll be evaluating a target, i.e. you'll be given a transaction scenario and you'll be asked to recommend whether you would or would not invest into the company itself. And the way in which the materials are provided is you are given a blank laptop, which is not connected to the internet, so there's no AI. And you will also be given a resource booklet of information. So that will include perhaps a background of the transaction itself, maybe the angle of the sponsor, any other investors which are involved in the situation, and perhaps some details on the valuation or the bidding process. You'll be given a background of the company, of the industry, perhaps of the financial projections, of the quality of earnings, which are the adjustments to EBITDA, which will obviously determine your entry valuation analysis. And then you will be expected to go off and produce an investment model yourself. So typically this would be a leverage buyout model. There are loads of resources online to understand how to do these. I recommend that you do a simple one for a case study, because if you are only given a total of say 2.5 hours, you may allocate half an hour or even probably less, to be honest, to reading, an hour to making the investment model itself, and then an hour to writing an investment recommendation, which will include the outputs from your model. I would recommend using a simple debt structure, perhaps one term loan and a revolver. If they really want 3 tranches, you could put in some senior debt or some subnotes, but trying to keep it as simple as possible. And then the final stage will be having your investment memorandum, which should include your recommendation. A conclusion is actually sometimes helpful to have up front, and then an introduction to the company, an introduction to the industry, sources and uses. And as part of that, you would have some analysis on the valuation. You may look at public comps, precedent transactions, DCF analysis, discounted cash flow, depending on what is included in the materials provided. And you may also want to include some sensitivity analysis of your returns, as well as investment merits and investment risks. There will be separate videos on how to do sensitivity analysis and what you may want to sensitize for your returns. Typically, as a basic starting point, this would include price and maybe some assumptions around revenue, margin expansions, or even capex and depreciation and amortization. And then the final part of the case study, maybe once you've submitted your materials, so that would be the Excel model and also the investment paper itself, be that some slides or a Word document. You may have a break between, perhaps when the interviewers are reviewing your materials, and then typically you'll go straight into an interview that could be anything from half an hour to an hour to discuss the case study which you have done. You may be asked to start by giving a brief presentation, so around your recommendation, the key things you've done, maybe what you didn't have time to do, but what you would recommend if you had more time to do the analysis. And then they may ask follow-up questions around specific points you've mentioned. They may challenge you on particular assumptions. And I think it's really important to see where the interviewer is guiding you. You can always be aware that you've done what you've done very quickly and maybe not had as much time as you would in real life. So you could talk about things you would have done differently or things that you would have spent more time on and how you would go about to approach that theoretically. And that pretty much in a nutshell is the private equity case study structure. So if you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. And if there is any particular content that you would like to see, please reach out and I will be happy to help. Good luck.